If you're looking to get a comprehensive update on the Young Thug YSL trial, then look no further than here. An Atlanta native entertainment journalist who's been covering Young Thug since his days in Rich Gang and has been in the courtroom covering the YSL RICO trial for the past 2 years has just dropped off a series of pretty comprehensive updates on how this trial is going, where things are at, and where things look to be going in the future. In this video, we're going to break down her recent coverage of this trial, peel out everything that she knows, and the most important developments in this case to this point. What's up, y'all? Devon here again for Obligatory. We do a weekly music news segment on this channel every Friday. Today is May 10th, 2024. At the end of these videos, we always have our new releases and upcoming albums next week, next month, and for the rest of the year, and there's a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and start with YSL. So, Reddit is good for some things sometimes, I have to admit. In a recent Ask Me Anything thread session was hosted in r/hiphopheads by Jewel Wicker, who again is an Atlanta native who's been covering Thug since the early days. She's been in the courtroom for this trial, and at this point she's really the go-to source for any and all things regarding this trial. I would say her biggest emphasis in all of this is the amount of time that it's taken to get to this point and how much more time it might take to finish this thing. I mean, first off, it took months and months and months in just the first stage of jury selection, literally just picking out the potential jurors for this case. And since then, the state's prosecution has brought in over 60 witnesses of a total of 150 that they intend to bring. And mind you, that's just the state's prosecution. So once that's done, then Young Thug and his 6 co-defendants and their team will get to bring in however many witnesses that they want to interview for this case.
Right, so you're having to remember all of these witnesses. You have 6 defendants, but then you also have the defendants that have already taken plea deals, the affiliates, the victims, right? We're going through all these different years, and sometimes we'll talk about one year and circle back to another year. I worry that it could get a little confusing.
Wicker says this trial will pretty easily push itself well into 2025. Now, the issue of lyrics and their admissibility in court has been a major theme and subject of conversation around this trial. Judge Glanville, who is overseeing this case, has decided to conditionally allow lyrics to be reviewed in court, meaning that he's been deciding on a case-by-case basis if he deems lyrics relevant for the jury to hear. And in general, it seems that hip-hop language and culture has sort of wedged a barrier between Young Thug and his team and the jury. For instance, she references an Instagram DM that was sent from Young Thug's account saying something to the effect of 24M on a person's head. Thug's lawyers have explained this as a reference to Lil Uzi Vert's forehead diamond they were wearing around the same time. But for these jurors who have likely been selected because they don't know much or anything about Young Thug, they have no cultural reference point for really any of the stuff that's being brought into the court, and that potentially favors the state's side of things. As for Gunna, who was arrested but released during this trial, Wicker says that in conversing with Young Thug's attorney, Brian Steele, he has remained, quote, adamant that Gunna has not cooperated with authorities and will not testify in this case. He is also not on the state's witness list. Now, people have their different definitions of what snitching is. We're not really trying to make a jurisdiction on that exactly, but it is also worth noting that Young Thug's father has come out with semi-recent statements that may suggest that the relationship between Gunna, Thug, YSL throughout this trial is okay. Wicker has also confirmed when asked that Fulton County's concurrent trials of YSL and Young Thug and former President Donald Trump have put an enormous strain on the entire court system of Georgia. Between these two very prolific and large-scale trials, all of the state's prosecutors and defense attorneys are fully engaged with this, leaving basically any and all other cases in the region on hold for the foreseeable future. And not only that, it's also taking an enormous amount of taxpayer dollars to go through with these whole processes. The names Birdman and Lil Wayne have both been coming up, quote, a lot recently in this trial, despite neither of them being charged in the RICO. This is largely in the context of Lil Wayne's tour bus being shot up in 2015. Prosecutors are alleging that Thug made the call for this to happen, and around that time, Lil Wayne and Birdman were allegedly feuding with one another, and Thug was sort of a proxy in the whole matter. And finally, as for Young Thug's likelihood of winning this case, Wicker points out that while there has been a significant level of criticism aimed at the state's prosecutors in their case, it ultimately comes down to what the jury decides, and there still is an overwhelming amount of evidence that needs to be presented. And so from a distance, Thug seems in decent spirits, and it certainly seems like there's reason to have hope on his side of things, but we've still yet to even reach the midway point of this trial. And for that reason, you can't really make a determination yet. So that's just about everything you need to know in terms of how this case is progressing. If you want to do a little bit more digging on this case, we have posted links to the AMA as well as the piece that she wrote for Billboard and some recent interviews that she's done as well. Any thoughts? Drop them down in the comment section. A$AP Rocky says his new album is coming, quote, very soon. Now, if you watch the April 26th Friday show, again, we do this thing weekly, we based that episode around the possibility of A$AP Rocky maybe announcing the release of his long-awaited next album, Don't Be Dumb. It's an album that's faced a ton of delays. I know fans are not really trusting his word on when it will be coming out, but based on some recent updates to the og.com website, I ventured to guess that maybe in the next month or so, we might get that significant update. Now, while we wait on that, we did get some more good news, this time directly from A$AP, and when asked by a fan when his next album was coming out, he said, quote, very soon. It's not much, but if you're like me and you've been speculating that maybe we're going to get that news, it's a win for me. Chance the Rapper is going to be releasing a new single next week with DJ Premier. It seems like he has been making a long-awaited comeback finally official. A couple of weeks ago, we got a new single and music video from Chance, and recently he's announced he's dropping a new song next week titled Together, produced by none other than the legendary DJ Premier. Check out his Instagram. Again, we've linked this down in the description if you want to hear a snippet. This beat will remind you of The Sixth Sense by Common, another Chicagoan, and another primo beat there from Like Water for Chocolate. And maybe this even samples it. I'm not entirely sure about that, but definitely gives you that vibe. And also, if you've been watching the show for the last month or so, you've probably seen I've been getting the shit end of the stick with this whole Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef, trying to time it up with these Friday news caps. And as you all know, they have had one for the ages. I am sure that all of you have gotten your fill of the situation and all the juicy details and breakdowns of every single track. But to this point, we've got a whole lot of songs from both parties. From Kendrick, we got Like That, Euphoria, 6:16 a.m. in LA, Meet the Grams, and Not Like Us, which was, of course, my personal favorite. Then from Drake's side, we got Push Ups, we got Tailor Made Freestyle, Family Matters, and finally the Heart Part 6. Questlove didn't love it. A lot of people didn't really care for this beef, and to be honest, I can't blame them given all the collateral damage that has been caused by these two gentlemen and the potential rehashing of trauma for a lot of people that has been alleged by both parties. I'll just say this, as rappers, I think I've gained a lot of respect for both artists. Like, Kendrick is really winning in my mind, but both of these artists have taken themselves up to totally new levels. They're clearly the two biggest names in hip hop, and this is very likely the biggest rap beef of all time. But as men, I think it is a different story. I think neither of these guys come out looking really very good at all. Next up, I wanted to shout out Macklemore for recently dropping one of the more highly publicized pro-Palestine messages from a musician in the form of a new song titled Heinz Hall, or Hins Hall. Obviously a really big deal, something really cool to see. I also wanted to take this opportunity to highlight some other really awesome gestures that musicians have made in recent months regarding this whole situation. Most notably and recently, the rapper Redveil, who performed at UC Santa Cruz this week for students protesting in an encampment on campus ground. We have an article linked in the description on that whole situation, and Redveil posted a public statement about that as well to his Instagram. The Weeknd, we mentioned last week, it was announced that he donated $2 million in food to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip via the World Food Program. So shout out to Abel. And then Musicians for Palestine has a metric ton of signatures, all co-signing a message calling for a ceasefire. And then I wanted to shout out the South by Southwest protests that happened earlier in the year. 80 plus artists and bands decided to boycott due to the U.S. military having stakes in the festival and the U.S. military's ties to the Israeli army and government. That included a lot of rock bands like Scowl, Buggin', Horse Jumper of Love, Subsonic Eye, people like Yaya Bay, and more. Finally, we gotta say a rest in peace to Steve Albini, a very prominent guitarist and figure in post-hardcore and noise rock. He has been most well known as the guitarist for the band Shellac, but also as a producer for Nirvana, Pixies, and so much more. More recently, he contributed to the final Injury Reserve album, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, and the timing of this is all very significant as the first Shellac album in over a decade was set to release next week and will be coming out on Friday. That's all the news. Now we're talking notable new releases from this week and our editor's picks from this week of new releases. So, damn, there is a lot of good music coming out. This is all the stuff we just wanted to highlight to you guys. maybe recommend or suggest. Personally, I'm very excited and already enjoying the new Gunna album, One of One. Finally, the day has come that Almighty So 2 has come out by Chief Keef, A.G. Cook, Yaya Bay, Igloo Ghost. There was a ton of great stuff to drop today, all over the map. And damn, I even got to let y'all know that the new Snow Strippers EP is something we're checking out. That shit is good. For singles, obviously we got Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us that just made the earth shake this week. And the Mach-Hommy K-Tronada collabs have not missed yet. I am so very ready for more. Alchemist announced a new album is coming with Hit Boy and Big Hit. They dropped a single today. I can't even lie, I really like the new Ice Spice single. Give me a light, straight up. It's good. Megan Thee Stallion's new song, Boa, also very, very good. Albums announced this week. I cannot wait to hear the new Raven Lenae album that was announced. Sideshow, Mach-Hommy as well. Albums releasing next week is going to be another damn good one, from Beth Gibbons to Rhapsody and the Shellac album I mentioned, as well as Billie Eilish and Mach-Hommy's new albums. April and May have honestly been unbelievable so far. It does seem like things are going to calm down a little bit here more in the latter half of the month. There's still some stuff I'm looking forward to for the rest of the year. Charlie XCX album, No Worries album, Normani, Hiatus Coyote, and so much more. So that is the news and the new releases and the upcoming albums for this week. If you like being updated weekly on music news and new music coming out, then consider subscribing to the channel. Click on the like button, dropping a comment are really great free ways to just make sure we keep in your rotation and in your algorithm as we post new videos. I want to thank you personally for making it to the end of the video. I have a birthday coming up here on Monday that I'm going to celebrate, and I will be back next week on Friday bringing you some more news. So shouts out to y'all for watching, and I'll be back in the next episode. Thanks again. Peace out.